Tudor, Joey Capillari with the Associated Press. The governor mentioned some comments you made about the upcoming November election and what would have to happen with the Secretary of State for you not to accept those results. Can you maybe talk about that? What would have to go wrong, I guess, for you not to accept the results in November?
I've just made it clear that if she runs an illegal election again, that would be a problem. I'm hoping that she won't do that.
Tudor, Jonathan Ostingbridge, Michigan. You claim that the governor forced people to get vaccines. Can you clarify that comment? Michigan never had a mandate.
I was talking about her Vax to Normal program that said if we wanted to have our freedoms and liberties back, that we had to get to a certain percentage of people that were vaxxed.
Tudor, Zach Gorchow from Onward News Service. You've been critical of schools remaining closed, but as governor, what would you have done for school districts? Their school boards decided we are going to remain in a virtual posture instead of going to in-person. What could you have done? What would you have done?
We saw other states like Florida that said we are going to have schools in person, that's critical, and that's what we should have done in the state of Michigan. We saw other states opening their schools, and the children were safe, and they ended up having much less learning loss than the state of Michigan.
Mrs. Dixon, Samantha Rich from the Michigan Daily. Governor Whitmer kind of stressed her record of bipartisan collaboration, and I'm just wondering what your plan is to work across the aisle.
Yeah, it's interesting that she talks about that because there are actually legislators that she's never met. So I would sit down with our legislators and meet with them regularly.
Tudor,
Thank you.
Craig Mauger from the Detroit News. Governor Whitmer asked you at one point, do you really think that books are more dangerous than guns? You didn't directly respond to that. What's your response to that question?
I think there are dangers all over for our children. I don't rank one as different than the other. I want to make sure our kids are safe no matter what.
Tudor, I'm Ariana Heyman from the Open Coast. You've criticized your opponent for failing to fix the roads. So I'm wondering how you plan to fix it and how you plan to pay for them.
Yeah, we've talked about this, that we want to make sure that we work with the legislature to get the road funding in there. Look, she had a budget that she's increased by nearly $20 billion, and she wasn't able to find the money. So I want to sit with our legislature and work with them to make sure that that is prioritized in the future.
Tudor, Anna Pavelski, the Michigan Daily. I was wondering if you could clarify what content you would want removed from public school curricula and how that would impact sex education in schools.
If you've been talking to parents, they are concerned about the content that is pornographic in our schools.
Hi, Elise with WNEM TV5. On the issue of criminality and abortion, can you just clarify or give your view of how you would handle that if the 1931 abortion ban does go back into effect, and if people are criminalized for this, what would you do? Because I know you said before that you are not for criminalization.
This is something that the people will decide, and we'll find out what the people choose, and the law is on the books. If that's the law, then we'll see what happens in the November 9th or the November 8th election.
Tudor, I'd ask you were talking about, controversial books in schools. What's your reaction to what happened in Spring Lake with the book Here that was removed for the book? The board decided to remove it.
We've been talking about having the Parents' Right to Know Act, and that's what we want to see happening, is that parents get to see the content. If with our Parents' Right to Know Act, we would have to post what books are in the classroom library and what books are in the school library, and then parents can go and say, I don't think this material is appropriate. And as in the case of Spring Lake, they were able to take that off the library shelves and say, if we need to use this, we'll talk to a parent and say, this is an opportunity for you to use this curriculum or to use this book to talk to your child. And that's how they chose to handle it, and I think that's appropriate.